empty your mind.
Is psychic phenomena contagious? Our paranormal experience contagious? Can it be transferred from one experiencer to another? That's what I'm going to explore here, my friends, in this discussion. I'm going to share with all of you a review of my data from a major remote viewing project that I was a small part of with the HellFire Remote Viewing Club, known as the Hitchhiker Effect. Those of you may have heard me talk about it in a previous podcast. I'm sorry, I don't have a copy of the book in front of me. This is based on a profound book that was recently came out called Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. And it's a book that details the accounts of the government official strides to explore UFO or UAP technology, particularly at a location called Skinwalker Ranch in Utah. Many of you may have watched some of the shows, the reality shows that they have. I believe it's on the History Channel now. But as a part of the HellFire Remote Viewing Club, we were tasked to look at this quite a few months ago, back in June when this target was done. So I'm just getting around to going through my data with all of you right now. But the results are fascinating. Again, I'm one of several viewers who have looked at this target. What I find to be incredibly interesting is some of the lots of the overlap of data. So we were all blind to this target. We were just given target coordinates, and we all brought back similar pieces of data. They overlapped, which lends credibility to something, in my opinion. But I want to stress this is right now for entertainment purposes only. You can draw your own conclusions on this. I want to draw your attention to our new website. Daz Smith, he's kind of the mastermind behind all of this. He's my teacher with remote viewing. Daz is just an incredible voice for remote viewing, just an incredible remote viewer. I'm going to share my screen here. Daz put this together for the club here to showcase and highlight our remote viewing projects. The website is hellfirerv.com, and this is where we will be housing all of our HellFire remote viewing projects. Of course, each one of the viewers, we all have our own endeavors, our own websites. You can find links to contact us there as well. But this is our home base right here now, hellfirerv.com. I'll have the links below. You can check it out. There's our logo here. Just a little bit of information about the club here. And then this is really cool. I take a lot of pride in being in the on the same page as these just incredible individuals here, who we are. You can just see all of our pictures here and get a little bit of background on the members of the HellFire RV Club. But ultimately, Daz reached out to us a while ago, for those that aren't familiar with HellFire, and said, hey, anybody interested in the remote viewing community in being open to looking at esoteric, mysterious, scary type of targets, things that not everybody wants to talk about all the time. So, of course, I jumped right into that, because I love exploring these kinds of things. So this is what we explore. We've looked at some fascinating targets, some UAP targets, some abduction targets. We looked at cloning of Dolly the sheep a while back as well. So just a lot of neat targets that we're looking at and exploring, using remote viewing as one tool among many to gather information about particular events that have happened throughout time. All right, so I would like to go through my data on this. This target itself was tasked by Dimi. She did an amazing job. She collected just a ton of data from all the viewers that worked this. She has a presentation where she does an overall collective analysis of all of our work. I will have that linked below. I'm about to post it to my YouTube channel as well. And you can find it on my website at sixthsensemedia.net, where I showcase all of my work and all of my endeavors as well. So I'll direct you to that. Please take a look if you're interested in Skinwalker and really the UFO phenomenon and the Hitchhiker Effect. Look at Dimi's presentation. She did a phenomenal job with her analysis, comparing the data, as you'll see, among all of the viewers. This session, I'm just going to review my data. I have 4 different sessions that I worked this target starting on June 12th, and I'd like to do a review of that. Before I get started on that, I'm going to just go over the tasking of this project here so we can take a look. The Hitchhiker Effect. of Jonathan Axelrod from Skinwalker Ranch. Now, Jonathan Axelrod is a government employee. He's an intel guy. He's got an incredible background. They detail it in the book. And after his first trip to Skinwalker Ranch, he came home and started having paranormal experiences in his home, I believe in Virginia. When he would leave home, his wife and his two sons had the same experiences, to include seeing what they called a giant dog man standing in their backyard, a giant werewolf, which is similar to what the reports of the Skinwalker from Skinwalker Ranch are said to have taken shape. A shape-shifting shaman would take the form of animals in various forms. So they were seeing these dog men in their backyard. They even saw physical scratches in the trees from this creature that would just stare at them, in addition to a ton of orbs that would fly through the home and through the ranch as well. So we are looking specifically at the mechanism. I'll go and get into the tasking in a minute. The viewer will describe the so-called hitchhiker effect related to Jonathan Axelrod and the way this effect is passed on to others. So we're looking at this hitchhiker effect and how it gets passed on to other people. Subtasks per the tasker: describe the source of this phenomenon, describe the purpose and reason of this effect, describe the processes and mechanisms for which underlies this phenomenon. What is special or different about Jonathan Axelrod or those to whom it is passed on from other people, which made them sensitive to pick up this phenomenon and transmit it to another person? As I'm reading this now, I'm processing, and I'm going through my data in my mind, and I'm pretty pleased with my session here. This is just an excerpt from the book, Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. He, Jonathan Axelrod, sounded puzzled as he recounted that almost immediately after he had returned home from Skinwalker Ranch, strange things had begun to happen in their home, not to him, but to his family. The phenomenon regarding Jonathan Axelrod started in July 2009 after his first visit to Skinwalker Ranch. Most people who spent more than a day on Skinwalker Ranch brought something home with them from the property. The effect is almost universal and universally unpleasant. The reports of this same infectious phenomenon have become so plentiful that it is now known as the Hitchhiker Effect. All right, so there's our tasking for this project. I'm going to get into my data. I put out a podcast last week tying in some of this data. I will have that linked below as well. If you're interested in this topic and in this target, I recommend you give that a listen. That's just more of my own thoughts as I'm processing the book and looking at the data from myself and the other viewers going through it. It's a fascinating target. Ultimately, I think, my opinion, I'll save my opinion for the end, as you'll see in my data, but I'm excited to share this. So let's get into the data here. Looking at session 1. I did this on June 12th, 2022. I felt fine going into this, and right away I had a structure. It was thin, crusty, solid, soiled. There were movement and energetics, and a rupture or a sound wave, and something was contained in an AOL of surface tension, as if energetics are contained in this bubble as a blip. And that was a weird experience. It was like a bubble or a blip that had energetics in it. Again, looking at energetics, motion was slow, lubricated, frictionless, but controlled. Had the AOL of star heel, something was machine or mechanical. And then I felt as if movements are contained or directed via grooves or rails in a groove or a track. I felt tingling, pulsing, something was steady, or it was calling for steady, loose feeling, electric smells, oil, metallic smells, slimy and oily. Looking at another ideogram here, an object and motion. It was spherical, rolling, rumbling, vibrating, and again, movement. It felt weird to me. I heard a squeaky sound, and it reminded me of a tank, just an AOL. It was over the sky, arcing, pink, blue, sunset, water, air, water interface, an AOL of an ocean. It's probably off on my water interface, but here we have a person standing looking over this pink sky, and they had this experience here. They saw this object in the sky, which is very similar to a lot of the accounts at Skinwalker Ranch, seeing UAPs, UFOs, and the orbs were very prevalent from what I'm reading in this book. And keep orbs in mind as you're looking at this data. So you had a movement, a mission, energetics, round, tumbling, life inside, smiling. I felt excited. I went, Yahoo! It was calm, cool. Again, I heard ocean sounds, but it was more just white noise. A sunset, as if object reflects the sunlight and is bright to the observer. This is the object. And I had an idea that this person or this life form was inside the object. Life was inside. There were controls, dials, and knobs. And then it was a tetrahedron or a complex shape, and there was glowing green and yellow. It was oily and digital. That was what I perceived inside this spherical shape. I sensed downward movement, psychic pressure and energy, the crown chakra, and I felt happy at my aesthetic impact and of something of a download. And then the question popped into my head, what did he learn? And I got an AOL of genetics. And I had this infinity symbol, which represents whatever was in the air. And there's energy directed down, hitting this person's crown chakra. Shock, shocking, all, in all, wonder, and bewilderment. These are some of the experiences that Jonathan Axelrod and others had when they would encounter a UAP, to include also a deep level of fear. Very fluid movements, as if it's folding inside of itself. Seeing this has a profound impact. It was as if trying to process something the mind doesn't understand. I really got the sense that he was seeing something that he didn't understand. He was going, how do I make sense of all of this? There was a signal, scanning, transference, a warning, as if a scan or check also has a transference of information as a secondary effect. So this object, I guess, was scanning this person, but as a secondary impact, it had some kind of it gave him information. The person was stoic, still in a calm demeanor, which in some of his encounters, that was not the case. What was the most important aspect of the target? This was spinning like a top, as if it spins, rotates, and moves through the air very fast. Zip, gone. Silent, very quiet, silver, metallic, spark, white light, a flash. I had something with thermodynamics as an AOL and a wormhole as an AOL. I felt the white spark was important. There was an opening, a blip, or a blip in time. It gave the perception of folding in on itself, as if space and time fold or bend, creating a transport effect. To the observer, a white flash appears, then it's gone. So the observer was having one experience, but the object itself was doing something different. So all the observer saw, I think, was a white flash, and it was gone. Where was it going? Describe the destination. It was another world. I had the word star command, explorers, influencers. Is it seek and destroy? Was it hiding, I'm asking? It was cold and barren, but there was technology here. Home, I asked? Heat, radiating, or radiation and energetics. Move to and describe the main purpose or function of the target is a movement I gave myself. To witness, to observe and report. They were there as a function of time, a window of opportunity. I have this sketch here of just it almost looks like Saturn with an axis running through it, and an AOL of a malevolent, a dark virus. But whenever I got the word malevolent, my conscious mind tries to dismiss it. Was it fear of the unknown, I asked? There's a sense of darkness and coldness, but a literal sense due to a lack of light and heat. There was a white glow, an inner glow, burst, radiate, sunlight I had as an AOL. What is most interesting to me? I felt this was really cool, and I immediately got an AOL of mushrooms on the inner earth. That's not to say that these are mushrooms. It's curious, though, Darby also drew mushroom shapes as well. I sketched these mushrooms here, and I asked myself, what am I exploring? A mushroom forest Or was it inner machine parts? I wrote the word mycelium. They were smooth, calm, and quiet, white, juicy, and happy. And I had this giant mushroom, or this small mushroom, surrounded by multiple life forms. The life forms were much smaller than this shape here. Or are they contained within? I asked. It was as if they go inside and upwards. And I have a sketch of the life going in and then up in the mushroom. And again, Darby had a very similar sketch. I don't know if this means if this is similar to ingesting a magic mushroom and having a psilocybin effect, or if this is some kind of shape or structure where people go in and up in it. Describing it a little more, it was soft and fibrous, many vertical strands you can step in between and be propelled or moved upwards. I had an AOL of an outer ray or a demon. I then had this drawing like an eye with tentacles that grabs you, an acid trip. It reminds me of the original Aeon Flux cartoon years ago. One of the most famous drawings. It was the eyeball with the eyelashes, and there was a fly caught in it. I didn't see a fly, but I had an eye with these long eyelashes acting like tentacles on my sketch here. Another sketch here in stage 4 of the mushroom shape. I had it labeled as spinning, rotating, whirling, silent, squishy, fibrous, or had openings. I also had energetics, up and down, suction. It was drinking like a straw. And then I had an AOL of a comet or a fireball. And then I'm looking at this wormhole or opening in stage 4. And I drew this gray craft next to this giant opening or hole. And I wrote, I want to enter. It was intentional. It was as if it gets pulled inside. The opening also bends or leans towards the object, moving it forward. I heard blip. This movement felt important, as if it bends or curves out, envelops the object, and then returns to its original shape and position. So what I was seeing here was that shape. It was as if the space around it was bending towards the craft or the object and then pulling it in. It was a really neat experience. Back to the session here. There was an instantaneous transport, a feeling of nausea. There was a slight dizzying effect during the bending, but otherwise it was quick and instant. And then my stage 5, I explored the expression blip because I had that a few times. I got open, spark, radar, transjectory, ornate, and energetics. And I had civilian and wormhole as an AOL. And then I had this sketch here of an eyeball with rays, yellow rays coming out of it. And I wrote, this feels iconic, an old religious feel or field by the hand or eye of God, as if there was an old painting describing this event through a religious lens. I had the watchful eye, the all-seeing, all-powerful, all-knowing, but then I asked in parentheses, or is it? Resistance and freedom, a fighter, who are they? I had the words conflict, energetics, direct energetics, beams of light, rays, commanding and controlling. My aesthetic impact here was, I don't like this. Searching and looking, it felt dystopian, but it looked beautiful. Again, another sketch here of the mushroom with some kind of cloud underneath it. Tall structures, a temple, ornate, ancient, and white. Moved on, still stage 5. Another word here I was exploring deeper, malevolent, violent, ornate, missing as a function of time, dendrite, hydrochlorophyll, dodecahedron, chemical imbalance, instability leads to the perfect structure. And then my stage 5 again, still finishing this up, I wrote into the complexities of the mind-body interface, like a parasite. So I stopped my session here because I said, this is getting kind of weird. And I submitted it and was looking for some movements. So what I got here was my list of movements from Dimi, looking at my sketch from page 15 about the object getting pulled inside, that wormhole piece I had. And then she wanted to see the stoic, calm demeanor person and the signal scanning and transference of information. And lastly, the technology on that other location, another world that I perceived. So I got into this. This was about 3 days later. I did this target here, or this this session. Again, wormhole, meteor, orbit. I had a structure, curved, bent, concave, reflective, shiny, distance, traveled, slow moving, angled or beveled, and triangular. Here's another sketch here of this object. It was cold and slow moving. I had the expression blip again, as if the entire object condenses at this point. And I have an arrow drawing right to a central point of this almost it's like a triangle without the top type of shape here. Almost looks like a stealth bomber. And then from the top, I had a top view of this, and it's, again, triangular in shape. Think of like a stealth almost. There was lots of energetics, movement of energy from top point as if it comes in and then dematerializes around it. So if you're looking at this, it came in from the top and then dematerialized around it. And I think what I'm getting is how these craft operate, but I'm not an engineer, so it's tough for me to really understand it. But I went to explain the process a little bit more. There was a procedure, a mechanism, it was mechanical, dealt with an algorithm, an output. There was a carrier signal. The word wayward was cold and dark. And then I felt I was inside looking out the window. There was life looking out the window, and I had this right angle with this arc between it. There was an interstellar object, luminary, decision point. I felt as an aesthetic impact, it was beautiful. I heard mechanical tones and harmony and resonance, and I realized it's a communication, a dance. It felt beautifully incredible, an AOL of a black hole. I have a sketch here. It's a black circle with a purple aura around it. I wrote empty, cold, like a window, tunnel or portal. There's light on the other side. All right. Now, for those of you looking at the YouTube channel, this session up here, I didn't type it out. So I'm going to go down to where I typed it so I can read my writing a little better. My handwriting's atrocious, and it's 10 times worse when I'm doing remote viewing. A sense of jubilation or extreme excitement. I feel vibrations associated with this that have an impact at an AOL of home. So it was like thinking of home. It serves as a beacon, a coordinate point that one can hone in on to find their way to a decision point of destination, almost like thinking or feeling your way there, the way forward. My idea behind this was you think about where you want to go, and it created a frequency within you. And that was how you navigate your way using this technology. The energy had a calming or numbing effect, almost like a drug. It made me feel good. But what was the purpose? I had feelings of pleasure, as if there was a benefit to all or both aspects involved. Their union creates a harmony, which is desirable. What happens when two objects resonate together? They sing together and create an output vibration. At the right frequency, this harmonic vibration causes an object to disappear. And in doing so, the universe continues to move along its path and the object remains on a fixed point. When it rematerializes, it is in a different location. However, it was not the object that moved. It is space-time that has continued to move while the object was stationary at a deeper base reality. When I wrote that, that blew my mind. That was an amazing data point to collect right there. I don't think like that. That was amazing. So basically what it's saying is that the object fades out of this physical reality into a deeper base reality. Space and time keep moving, and then the object rematerializes at a new location in space and time as space and time move around the object. That was pretty cool to collect. And this is just my handwriting of that. All right, moving on. Another ideogram here. Energetics and motion. I had an AOL of three sisters. Bubbly, energetic, transference, juxtapose. And then I had an AOL of a break in time. AI, calm. Movement felt slow and methodical, a rhythm, something large in motion. It looks slow, but to move with that mass is very graceful and elegant. Bursts of energy, and then a fast, rapid movement upwards and skywards. And again, the word blip and gone. So here's that burst, and that's the direction it went. It went to the left, and then it arced real fast and went up and to the right. Burst, and to the sky. Was to the stars, to the moon we go. And I had the word yippee. And I felt an aesthetic impact of excitement. I asked to describe the transference of information from session 1. I had an AOL of the all-seeing eye. I had movement, information, and I had this life form that I sketched here, and there was a blue beam of energy, and it came into the heart center, and then it expanded out to all the limbs. And I remember seeing this, and it went everywhere. This energy just expanded in the crown and then out throughout the entire body. The energy comes in through the crown, hits the heart chakra, then expands in all directions. It extends beyond the body It also begins output the same way it came in. So it goes back out the crown. Here I had this group of circles that were then encircled with a red line here, a red circle. They were life forms speaking one sound in unison. It felt like a land-water interface. Are they waiting for something? It felt like a spiritual or religious experience, but a misinterpretation. They're waiting, but feel flat about it. They are separate from the other individual. I'm guessing this other individual here was Jonathan Axelrod per the tasking. And these are other people who, as we're going to go through these next couple of sessions, I think are influenced by him. I had like a phoenix rising from the ashes. Describe the purpose of the energy's impact on the life. It was unintentional. It was wayward, a transfer, digital information. It was unwanted. A scepter and the spear. I drew a sketch that's supposed to be a scepter and a spear. Horrible drawing here. It was a blunt object that can be used to lead and inspire. The other is a mechanism for piercing, meaning the spear. It can provide a means for food and protection, or it can wage war. Together, the combination is very powerful, but phallic and male-driven. Looking at energy, cleaning and purifying, as if it cleans the energetic body of unwanted impurities. This has a profound impact. It opens up channels of input and communication at an AOL of toxic metals, like a spiritual awakening. I have new eyes with which to see, and now I see the world differently. He sees things differently than the masses. What does he see? The way forward, the way home. Information comes to him so fast, new ideas and very fast solutions, as if his mind is evolving hundreds of years ahead of his peers. There are elements of this, I think. Some of the people who have this hitchhiker effect, they do end up becoming sick as well. A lot of autoimmune diseases, and I'm wondering if this is some of this purging or cleansing that's going on, the impacts the energy is having on the body. Moving on here. I had an AOL of the City of Angels, and it was just that part where the angels are on the beach in the morning, and it was a Nick Cage and Meg Ryan movie back from I think the 90s, and they watch the sunrise, and they can hear a harmony, an angelic song, and that was the AOL that I had, the comparison I had. It felt like the warm sun on my face at the beach. Why is it important? And I wrote, it is the wayfarer, the wanderer. The person or life is very calm but inspiring. He's a forward thinker, a strategist with an advanced intellect. What are the consequences of his intellect? Compassion, truth, and a journey. He's always searching, a devout commitment to the truth, the spiritual journey that many will try to replicate but never duplicate, at least not this way. He is unique. Sounds like many of us truth seekers out there, right? All right, another ideogram here. I had life. Life contained in an event or object and structure in motion. Calm, a presentation. This is from page 15 of my first session. Calm, life-focused, AI. It felt beautiful and fun. There was a sense of enjoyment at this task, excitement but routine, as if looking through window in aerial structure over a curved surface at high speeds. Was it water? Was it the ocean? Here I drew it. I drew life behind a control panel. There's a big display window, and there's that curved surface that life is seeing. It was almost as if you were flying over the moon or seeing the curvature of the planet you were flying over. Life was calm and focused. I think I read about this already. Yep, that's it. What is the purpose? Flying and maneuvering, searching for the way home. They were looking for an energy point or junction. I feel like this is important to the tasking. What happened before? Why was he here? As a function of time, a moment, a drip, to engage or to forage? Was it to search and destroy, I asked? That didn't feel right. It felt peaceful for me as an AI, exploratory, observing. Here we go. The blossoming of seeds, as if energy was dropped, and he's checking on the growth it caused, and it brings beauty. From his perspective, this almost feels simulated and less real. He was dropping energy like seeds and checking on his growth. Okay, what was being grown? minds, plants, interpretation, genetic interpretations and expressions of code, genes or genetic implants of code, forging, reminiscent, deliver, and discover. Describe the technology from my first session on page 10. Present, omnipresent. I felt, wow, this is big. The technology of creation, the origin species, which is odd given the remote empty location, the void and perception of nothingness. But this nothingness, this perception of silence, is necessary to harness or harvest something. Divine energy, free from the noise and interference of life. This is what remains of something long forgotten, despite its presence everywhere throughout the universe. Harvesting, replicating, creating. The seed bearers, givers of life, my cup runneth over. Had an AOL of the chalice and the chariot. Fill it and transport it, the gift giver, depending on your perspective. All right. These are just, all right, everything I didn't type here. Describe the source of this technology. Had an AOL of an Asian feel, creation, creative feel, omnipotent, a shining light, simple and basic, stripped of all the noise, calm. What do you have when you strip everything away? This, as if removing the walls of containment reveals the white light, a calming energy. It is nurturing and sacred. There is a refining process to obtain it on several cold worlds. So the idea was that there is an energy, a base energy, which this is me interpreting this now as my own thoughts on it. Almost like if you call it the Holy Spirit, the power of creation, or call it God itself, a God energy, life energy. That energy is in everything. But to get it in its purest form, it needs to go through a refinement process. And in order to refine it, according to my data here, it's happening on cold worlds, whatever that means. They are the workers, the caretakers. They believe in what they are doing, a divine feel to them, disseminating and seeding this energy at an AOL of beings of light. The cycle of life as life consumes itself. This helps to be reborn and transplantation. And that was it for that session. Let me stop my share for a minute. I thoroughly enjoyed that session. Again, no way of verifying this information, but it's neat to ponder and to think about. I have 2 more sessions to go through where I explore this a little bit further. I'm going to get into that in just a moment. Okay, let's take a look at session 3 here. I have 2 more sessions to go with my data. So my movement was to move to the life that I described as stoic, still, calm, and demeanor. So I was looking at that life again. Investigate the most significant changes that unfold for this life, which directly results from the events that you described in my session 1 and session 2. So I'm exploring my data a little bit further. Here we go. I felt okay coming into this session. This was June 20th now that I did this session. Right away, I had life, movement, and energetics. Male and connection. Was it spiritual? An AOL of something phallic, intertwined, interconnected, consciousness, a relationship, stoic, burdensome. I had knowledge in parentheses, and commitment. Challenging intellect, like cyclical thinking. Is there a decision point? I asked. Again, an AOL of an ocean. Felt a land-water interface, in and out energetics, compassion, cyclical, serene, and an AOL of an encampment. There was a life deep in thought, stuck on a concept or idea. But what idea? I asked. Conceptualization, rationalization, realization. Is this real? How many times have we asked ourselves that question? Almost like a physical object in the mind, like a small stone. This may be symbolic, but it has a real impact. Think about all the implants that are out there or reported to be out there. I had this sketch of just a man pondering with a question mark above him. Another ideogram, and I had the Buzz Lightyear saying, to infinity and beyond. There was life, movement, an object or event. Male, movement, object in motion. Again, life inside, energetics. An energetic event or object and life, motion forward. Calm and detached. Okay, describe impacts and change to this life. There was thought, event, movement, moving through the mind, a burst or impact. Their coming was my AOL. Focus in a particular direction at times feels flat or stuck. Something entered the mind. The mind or thoughts are typically contained within a given structure or chaotic order. However, this mind was given a limited escape with pinpoint precision, allowing the mind to escape in a single direction of thought with laser focus like an obsession. Such thoughts will eventually have a spillover effect and impact, but not in the short term. Later, in the long term, when ideas are realized, they bear fruit and prosper if given the right nourishment. I had this drawing here, input. This is a brain that it looks horrible, but I had a brain that I sketched here with a whole bunch of symbols around it. And there's a beam of input coming into it. And then I had the word escape velocity and a beam coming out of it into this yellow cloud. So you have the input hitting the brain, these thoughts circling it. I labeled it the mind, and then it leads to focused thinking, and that explodes into a new line of thinking and a new paradigm. It reminded me of the tarot, and I sketched, I forget which tarot card it officially is labeled, but it's the one with the cloud where there's a hand holding the cup, handing it to the person sitting in the lotus position. A gift given. What's the price, the burden, the impact of knowledge, I asked. Is it earned? Sometimes we earn that knowledge after we receive it. The price is not in the giving or the exchange, but in the processing of it. The time and energy it takes to understand. When it's over, you have something new. At times, you are something new. Man, this hits home. All right, the exchange. But what do you give in exchange? You are an incubator, a processor. This is soul growth. You develop a concept or an idea until it is ready to be released. This is just how it's done. Your mind processes and your soul assimilates through differing processing centers in your body. Describe the most significant changes to this life. Something new, something different, a ripple effect, impact through time, a signature, a digital signature, an electronic trace. With the end result, there is an ultimate interaction of frequencies, a harmonization with other novel frequencies. I had cybernetics and cybergenetics. More stage 4. I had a sketch here. I had this, all right, let me read it here. I had step 1 was a new idea. Step 2 was everything else. So the new idea is up here in a cloud. It beams energy downwards to everything else on the ground below. I labeled everything else. Step 3 was the harmonization. It was the feedback of everything else. And then step 4 was the burst and spread and dissemination. So the idea comes down, it hits everything else, it then harmonizes and then it explodes. As if this new frequency interacts with multiple frequencies in a certain way. It hits critical mass and then bursts, sending a signal outwards to everything. A new idea is born, a new paradigm. Describe what is most important, a novel or new idea or concept, but why? Growth, evolution, a spiritual caretaker or caregiver. As if spiritual development from this point will spread to a larger community, akin to spiritual gardening. My AI at this point was just, wow, this is incredible. I had the sense of calm, reserved, and wise. They are the gardeners. They are like gardeners, nourishing their crops. They hold a technical knowledge. If they add X to this point, they see the greater impact it will have. And an aesthetic impact, I felt so much love. I liked it. It felt strategic. There was a strategy, like a chess player playing the long game. Stage 5, I used the word incubator. It was a vessel, chalice, machine, purposeful, functional, dynamic, changing or the ability to enact change, scale and scaling, growing, cultivating, harvesting, a new product, something new. I have this sketch now. It's the yellow energy coming into the mind and then exploding up back out of the mind. And at the same time, a blue energy bursting from the chest. That was my final sketch here. It was like the energy comes in and then it just explodes. It processes inside and then explodes outward. All right, let's get into, let's stop my share for a second. So that session to me was incredible in just thinking about the seeding of knowledge and how we as people, those of us, I relate to this a lot personally, just as someone who wants to know things. And I think a lot of us out there, we want to know things that are watching this. We take that information and we process it. We think about it. We analyze. We wonder. We play the what if game. And that was the sense that I had. It was this experience that this person had, this knowledge that came down to him, and it took a while of him just processing it and kicking it around until he figures it out to an extent where he then shares it, and boom, it bursts out, and that information has a ripple effect. Now, I'm not done my sessions yet. You know what? Let me hold that thought on what I think that actually means. I'm going to come back to that, but this is, I think, really powerful in thinking about the possibilities here. All right, session 4. Again, looking at my third session, page 8, I had a sketch and data on a life and a wording as movement information, expanding in all directions, extends beyond the body. It also begins to output the same way it came in. Dimi wanted me to investigate it more. How do these changes will affect that life surroundings in the next year, directly related to the event that I described? Okay, starting at this session, this was my final session. I did this on July 7th, 2022. Energetics, an event in life. Event and energetics surrounding a life. There was a knowledge base, substantial information given, and I had, as an AOL, all-encompassing and all-knowing. Calm and relaxed, I felt. There were swirls or swirling, and an AOL of a starman. I had this drawing here of a life form. I labeled it swirling energy. And they had these, the person had these rings, these horizontal rings extending up from the feet all the way up over the head, below the feet to over the head. And I had these other rings crisscrossing in an X form, and then one ring going vertically above him, almost looked like the atomic structure. There was lots of movement of energy around a life. It felt good to me and pleasurable as an aesthetic impact. Life force, life field. Is it damaged? I asked. Is something damaged, repaired, needed, desired? And then I wrote as an AOL, no ill will. Intention, had intent, intention, and personality. Life, nervousness, anxiety, calm, sequence, sequential. A process, a natural process of growth and evolution. It was a staged event, as if something intentionally happened to spark this process. At an AOL, like a UFO sighting. Again, turmoil and chaos. I drew that same sketch, except this time I added a blue orb into the center of the person inside all of these rings and energy. I had energy coming in from the crown, and I had energy going out in the 4 angular directions. My aesthetic impact was, this was beautiful. A signal comes down from above and expands in all directions in 360 degrees. It was spherical. Sketch and describe the main purpose or function I had for all mankind. Sight memory, remembrance, remembering who you really are. I put that as a quote. I referenced David Icke and his work. Remembrance as a function of time, dissemination of code, skill and skill set, function and purpose. But to what end, I asked? Awareness, awakening, a movement of ideas. Then I had as an AOL, terrorism or terraforming. A mental map, a mind map, a mapping of ideas, mental terraforming, the grand idea. Plant the seed of consciousness and see how it grows. Follow the roots and watch it spread, or watch it sprout and spread. As an AOL, I had a master of puppets, a mind map crawling through the brain, a collection of mental imagery. And I drew a life form, and I had a plant coming out of his head, a green plant. This is a metaphor, I believe. But inside the head, I drew a whole bunch of roots, and they got tinier and tinier and tinier as these roots were just spreading throughout the person's mind. Central concepts and ideas, images of a crowded urban area. What does it mean? Seeing it differently, a new way of looking at things, changes in thought and focus, minor subtleties that ripple into larger impacts. I felt calm, peaceful, and restful. It was like taking CBD. Thoughts as medicine. Thoughts as medicine, mood enhancement, thought stabilizers. I feel really good about this, but should I, with my aesthetic impact? Have I taken the poison pill, I asked? Have I been manipulated? If so, is that bad? I wondered. Are there negative consequences to this? Or I just don't trust, quote, them, the manipulators, influencers, I wrote. Moving into stage 4, describe how these changes will impact this life over the next year. Next year, more like the next several decades, I wrote. And then I laughed, ha ha, and generations to come. I wrote down calming, a widowed effect, data streaming, lonely, but it's okay, content and happiness. Move to 1 year from now and describe what's changed. I have an AOL of everything, a function of time, internal processes. I didn't like this, and I wrote that was my opinion, as if this is a totally different being, but it feels good for the life. What does it mean to be totally different? Changed and evolved, functioning and operating differently, a changed focus and perception, a new operating system akin to an upgrade, spiritual growth and evolution. Evolution, changed growth, manipulation as a point in time, star seed, star growth, souls, a growth of souls. And I wrote here, this is all stage 5 here. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the word evolved. I had an aesthetic impact that made me feel happy. And then I had elven or elf-like. There were helpers, tiny seeds of happiness in life, the do-gooders. They are here to enact change. In my AOL, this felt very new agey to me. A sense of these, quote, tiny helpers that are happy on a mission to bring change and joy. It reminded me of a Dolores Cannon novel. This got in a really weird territory here. A sense of awe and wonder. They're curious and innocent, filled with joy, but protected. A danger to society, to our current way of thinking. Their innocence is their protection, as if it prevents the negative, generic, or genetic code from penetrating or influencing them. My AI was, wow, these beings felt fascinating to me. It makes me feel as if there is a plan out there, a benevolent plan to spread love and joy, not in the face of darkness or to combat it, simply to grow love out of fear. The impact can and will change the world. It's coming to it's comforting to think an agenda of this nature might exist. I had an AOL where I said, I want to align myself with this. Anything else? I asked, my final page here. And I drew a small being handing a yellow sun with blue rays to a larger life form. That larger life form has that yellow sun with the blue rays in their crown chakra. And then they have a blue, it looks like atomic structure circle with yellow rings around it at their heart chakra. I wrote a subtle awareness of their presence, but not consciously perceived. They are the gift givers, starseed enhanced and enlightened. I had an aesthetic impact of feeling happy. There is a connection formed between the two life forms, a bonding that allows one to subtly perceive aspects of the other, pairing of sorts. All right, friends. Those are my 4 sessions from that. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I want to stress right now, there's no way to verify this information. Not yet. If someone out there has feedback for me on that, I would absolutely love to see it. With that being said, for me personally, collecting this information has been profound for me. There are, I think, a lot of lessons in there for me personally, in understanding this. A fascinating story of what's ultimately, again, according to my data, a benevolent cause. And I caution us in taking this as gospel. I'm just exploring my data. I want to stress that because the soldier in me is saying, we don't know what these things are, and we don't want to just blindly assume things are good for us. I want to be clear about that. So based on my data and my data alone is what I'm talking about here. But what I liked is that I referenced the aspect of fear, growing love from fear. The people that went through these encounters at Skinwalker Ranch talked about how terrified they were, how scary these experiences are. And thinking on some of the experiences I've had in my life and how scared I've been and where I've gotten to now in my journey, I've gone from fear and I have grown in love because of those scary experiences. I have found my own enlightenment. I'm not comparing myself to Skinwalker, but I do see commonalities for those of us that go through these spiritual journeys to some of the things that are reported in these Skinwalker experiences in Hitchhiker. So ultimately, what do I think the Hitchhiker Effect is? I'm not done reading the book and all of the accounts. And I think there's other things going on because people are getting sick from these orbs that are interacting with their bodies. So I don't want to downplay or discredit that. I want to stress I'm looking at this through the lens of my data right now and the little bit of research I've been able to do into this phenomenon. But I wonder if my data is correct, if what happens is someone has a supernatural experience intentionally, and that experience and that energy that comes in their body causes them to experience reality in a different way. And then over time, they have to assimilate that new perception, that new reality, that new understanding of this is not how the world works. And for those of you out there that are involved in remote viewing, think about when you started to have those sessions where you're like, wow, this is not how I thought reality operated. That changes you, but that change, it may feel instant, but to fully assimilate and process that information sometimes takes years, if not a lifetime, to fully understand the magnitude of what information is that you've gathered. And I got the sense that this person was growing based on these very scary experiences for them. And then that spreads like a seed. The gardeners drop those bits of energy in the garden, and then it spreads and it grows, and they're cultivating their crops. That sounds like a scary thing, but my perceptions of these gardeners when I was doing my session didn't feel like this is some dystopian prison planet. I think it might just be our stage in the evolutionary ladder or our place in the universe right now. But there's a lot to think about. I'm going to revisit this session from time to time throughout my life and see what different lenses I have at those points in time and my understandings of it. So I would love to hear your thoughts and reactions to this. You can let me know in the comments section. I know there's a lot of data to unpack here. You may have to watch this in a couple chunks, or you may have to watch this several times. But let me know what you think, any feedback you have. If you are connected with this project, in the real world, and you're able to share some information, I'd love to get some feedback on it. It would be really helpful to me. So let me know. All right, friends. Again, I'm going to direct you to HellFireRV.com for the HellFire Remote Viewing Club. Thank you to Dimi for putting this project together. Thank you for Daz for all your work on the website. Thank you to all the remote viewers that worked this one. Go check out their sessions. Check out Dimi's analysis as well. You can find it. I'll have the links below once everything gets put up there. And check out my website at sixthsensemedia.net. You can find my books, to include Food for the Archons and my new book, The Hive, the Virus, the Infected, and the Immune. You can find my personal RV explorations as well. So Dennis Nappy II here with the HellFire Remote Viewing Group and Sixth Sense Media, reminding you to never stop questioning, keep an open mind, and let your intuition be your guide. Thank you.
I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow, or it can crash. Be water, my friend. Be water, my friend. water, my friend.